Hey everyone, welcome to the Restorative Reading and Writing for Wellness podcast. I'm Stephanie, a book-loving, notebook-hoarding reader and writer on a mission to change lives one book and one notebook at a time. On this podcast, we explore the power of books and notebooks as tools for wellness. Reading and writing can help us feel better and make life better too, and I'll show you how I do it. You'll find episodes exploring the research behind reading and writing for wellness, practical strategies to embrace your own restorative reading and writing, and you'll meet authors and special guests who help us take inspired actions in our own daily practices too. So grab a notebook and your TBR list and let's dive into today's episode. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Restorative Reading and Writing for Wellness. I'm Stephanie, and I'm here with another episode on how reading and writing can make life better and help us feel better too. Now, before we get into the episode today, I do need to give a little PSA about the episode last week. There was a bit of technical difficulty last week, also known as me uploading something wrong, apparently. So you may have tried to click on last week's episode, and instead of hearing our usual jingle and my usual voice, you probably heard something from my other podcast, Kidlit Love, and a whole lot of silence. I have no idea what happened. When I downloaded the episode from the software I use, it worked, but in the upload, I apparently did something wrong. So here's what I want to tell you. It is fixed. It is fixed. And if you were intrigued by figuring out which restorative writing component you needed next in your life, but you didn't get to hear it, it is there now. I promise. Go back, take a listen, and then let me know what you think. But moving on to today's episode, I am excited to talk with you about what we are talking about today for a couple of reasons. One, and I think the most important and my most favorite, is that I love geeking out on the science of restorative reading and writing. Telling someone that reading and writing is going to help them feel better. It's going to be good for their physical health. It's going to make their life better. If they're not a true reader and writer yet, then I get a funny little look and they're not quite sure what I'm talking about. But when I go into the science, the light bulbs start going off. And I've been doing more in-person sessions lately with educators, with regular, in air quotes, people about how reading and writing can really elevate what they experience in their life. And I find that every time I do another in-person session, I'm able to refine the way I present that science so that it lands faster and it lands more intensely, which I am really excited about. Plus, it is the perfect time of year to talk about what we are talking about today, because at about this time of year, research shows us that people tend to fall off the New Year's wagon. Whether you set resolutions or goals or intentions, this is the time of year where some of them fall short if we weren't really aligned in how we were choosing them, if we were stressing ourselves out when we were choosing them, or just choosing something that was a bit too big for us to sink our teeth into. So today's episode will definitely help with that. But the final reason I'm really excited about today's episode is because I need it. I need it personally. I love this podcast and I love this work that I do. But sometimes doing this work that I love and doing the podcasts and the workshops and the Substack and all of the wonderful things, it can take time away from my own personal reading and writing practice. And so lately, I have found that I'm stumbling a bit in my own reading and writing as I struggle to keep up with all of the demands and all of the things that I'm juggling. So I need this reminder. I need this reminder, and I'm going to share with you today just as much as you do. And so it's something that's been on my mind, and I thought, well, it's time for a podcast. Now, not so ironically, this podcast was inspired by another podcast. So, in my quest to rebalance my life and to make sure what matters most to me actually gets into my schedule in a beautiful way, I, of course, have been learning from other people. One of my favorite podcasts to listen to for a variety of reasons is the Kathy Heller podcast. I've talked about Kathy on this podcast before. She is the reason this podcast exists in the form that it exists in and that it feels so good. And her main message to the world is about abundance and about manifesting and about bringing what you want to bring into your life. And that's really the topic that we're going to dive into today. Yes, I'm finally revealing it, if you didn't already tell from the title. We're going to talk about how reading books can manifest anything you want in your life. So, as I was listening in the car to her recently, she was talking about money in 2026. Now, abundance comes in many forms. It's time abundance, it's friendship abundance, it's hobby abundance, but it's also financial abundance. And this particular episode was focused on how to make 2026 different than all of the years before, with a focus on calling in more financial abundance so you could do the things you want to do and make the difference you want to make. A lot of people talk about manifesting as just visualizing what you want and being open to having it come to you. And that's that. That is not Kathy. Kathy is not that. Kathy said something. She always says something that makes me stop, makes me think, makes me rewind, makes me take notes, and makes a difference. And in this particular episode, as she was talking about manifesting, she was being really clear of what was going to work and what was not going to work. And she said it is so important to approach manifestation, to approach inspired action in your life from a place deep down in your identity of who you are. You can't take action on new goals if you're operating from the same old negative script in your head. You can't take new inspired action in a new year if you're still surrounding yourself with the same people and the same podcasts and the same things that you've always done. You have to think about manifestation and think about change from a place of identity. You have to change who you think you are. You have to change the story you tell yourself about who you are and what you do and what is possible for you. It is from that place of possibility, that place of a new story, that you can take different action than you have ever taken before. Now, that just landed really well for me in that moment. And in that podcast, she was talking about how you do such a thing, right? How do you change your identity of who you are? How do you change how you think and how you feel, and therefore what you choose and how you respond? There's a couple of different ways, right? There is visualization, there is meditation. There are lots of things in the manifesting world that people might suggest to you. But of course, what I was thinking of as I was listening was reading, right? I was literally talking to the podcast saying, yes, this is it. Add reading to your list. Reading is a way of manifesting because, as I've talked about so many times on the podcast, it changes the way our brain fires. We can make our subconscious work for us by taking advantage of that research around mirror neurons that fire in our brain when we read, likened to what we're reading in the book, that help us imagine a new reality, imagine a new identity, that literally fire different areas of our brain that maybe never fired before, that might be really hard to get to fire in real life, but they're coming alive when we are attached to the page. So this might be a piece that is missing for you. Maybe your goals are falling short in 2026. Maybe you're desperately trying to feel and be and do differently than you have in years before, but it's hard or it's not working. I get it. I happen to be there in the moment. So today, I want to really dive into the science behind why reading can help you manifest and bring whatever you want into your life to help you call in that new identity. And I know I joke on the podcast that maybe some of the things I talk about feel a little bit wooey. This is not woo. Okay, for all the people listening in the back, this is not woo. This is based on science, on published research studies, pretty recent published research studies that says this. When you read, your brain thinks you are living the experience. When you read, your brain thinks you are living the experience. Your brain does not know what is real or what is imagined. It doesn't know what was in your past or in your present or what you're ruminating about your future. It only knows what you are choosing to think about and what you are choosing to feel, and it acts accordingly. That's it, right? So, what does that mean? Your brain is firing in very real life ways when you read very pretend things. Okay, so if you are reading about a character who is running for their life, well, science and scans show that the motor cortex of your brain is lighting up when you are reading that. If you are reading about this beautiful, lyrical, descriptive scent in a book, those functional MRIs show that your olfactory regions of your brain, they are lighting up as you're reading about that wonderful smell. Okay, truly, your brain is living the book. It's not just imagining it. It's not just watching someone else experience it. It doesn't know the difference. It is living the book with you. Scientists call it embodied cognition. You literally become the book, and the book becomes you on a brain-based scientific level. So, what does this mean for manifesting? What does this mean for calling in things that you want to call into your life? What does it mean for helping you reach your goals in 2026, for embracing this new identity that you might be trying to embrace, like I am? Well, if we know that embracing a new identity is needed to take new action in our life, then we have to focus on how to embrace that identity. One of the easiest ways, I will just put it out there, that I can think of based on this science is by reading books that are literally going to help fire your brain in different ways to mimic that identity you want to have. Okay, books can literally pave the way for changes in our identity at a subconscious level because every time it fires, it changes forever. And so, if we're really intentional about how our brain fires, and I would say we try to do this in lots of ways, right? Who we surround ourselves with, the kinds of thoughts we think, the kinds of things we write down, right? We are attempting to get our brain to change in positive ways all the time. But by choosing particular books, we can do it on a subconscious level while really enjoying ourselves at the same time. The other cool thing that the science showed is that when you are reading and you're living that experience and your brain is firing in all of those different ways, that is a change that has cumulative effects. So long after you close the page of that book, those grooves have already started. It's going to be easier to fire your brain in that way again because you've already got the ball rolling in the book. So after you close that book, it's going to head right on into your life, which is exactly the point. Have you ever got lost in a book? Like truly lost. You were just in it. You didn't hear people talking to you. You didn't know what was going on around you. Think of Rory in the Gilmore Girls when Dean had apparently been staring at her and noticing her. She didn't get it. Think about when there was a fight right next to her. She didn't even notice. She was lost in her book. It's called narrative transportation. Isn't that a cool word? And by the way, that is a scientist created word out of the research. When you are in that narrative transportation mode, when you are lost in your book and you are truly living it, science shows that our critical brain stops, right? Because we're not thinking of anything else other than the book. It shows that we're truly experiencing that book as if it were us, and therefore The beliefs and attitudes that we hold, they can shift in those moments because we're literally trying on somebody else's life for size. It shifts us from the inside. So science shows this. What you read will change your brain. What you read will change your brain and influence the ways you think and the ways you feel, which gets to the identity of who you are. And all of that work is starts on the page, but it continues. It makes those kinds of synapses and firings much easier because you've already laid the groundwork. That means reaching those goals and changing in the way you want to change. It's more possible because of the books that you read, right? So this is why we really need to be intentional about the books we're reading. That doesn't mean you can't go read the latest murder mystery. You can't go read whatever book club you happen to be part of, right? That's fine. But you also need to choose books that are intentionally creating the identity you want to create. I've talked about one of my favorite quotes from Jim Rohn on this podcast before. You are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So what if we flipped that and said you're the average of the last 5 books you've read? Let's just tip the scales in our favor. Let's have 3 out of those 5 be books that are very, very intentional to help you cultivate the identity you want to have. Right? So let's say in 2026, you really want to tend to that garden. You want to be a person that has a green thumb. You want to be a person whose career revolves around gardening so that you can just spend all day doing what you love. Right? Maybe you read Hedge by Jane DeLury. That's what that character did. Although, fair warning, there's a lot of other heavy stuff in that book. You will find what you need in the garden sense of the word in that book. It's just beautiful. Let's say you're an adult who has some family strife and you want to figure out how to reunite with some estranged family. Then maybe you read Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb and you follow one of the particular stories in the book that shows a woman doing just that. Maybe though you have a dream of starting your own planner company. You want a stationery store, right? Then you need to read Love Lettering by Kate Claiborne because that girl in the book, she did what you want to do. Maybe you want to get into herbalism and you want to start taking better care of your body by making your own um, teas and really thinking about how each of the herbs that you have can do something different in your life, you want your own herbal apothecary, then you need to read Daughters of Green Mountain Gap by Terry Ann Brown. Or maybe in 2026, you are trying to call in more rest. You're trying to call in more ease. You're trying to call in more joy. Then you need to read Permission to Rest by Ashley Neese, which, by the way, is the literally current book that I am reading and is changing the game for the rest game for me. So by choosing 3 out of those 5 most recent books that we've read, by choosing them intentionally and reading them, knowing just by reading them and getting lost in that narrative transportation and allowing yourself 30 minutes to shut the world out and steep your brain in these words that are going to pave the way for a new you. Oh, I mean, why not? Why not? So it's thinking about who do you want to be? How do you want to feel? What do you want to do? And then choosing books to help you manifest that in your life on a neural brain science level. Now, how do you choose those books? Right? You can head to Google. You can ask everybody you know of books that might be a good fit for you. But every month I put out a new book calendar around a one-word theme. I'm going on what? This is year 4. I think we're ending year 3, going to year 4, something like that. So all of those back calendars are available for you to browse. You can join me on Substack and my private Get Literate community where we talk about books paving the way for new possibilities all the time. And maybe you sign up for some bibliotherapy with me, where I can create a book apothecary for you. I can send you one digitally, or if you really want to indulge, I've just started sending actual boxes of books out, creating literal physical book apothecaries for people who really want to try this work. I mean, as readers, we love to read. Why not settle into the research that says reading can help us truly cultivate a life we love and what we want by letting ourselves get lost in a book? There is no better way, in my mind, of reaching our goals than sinking into a book and letting it do its magic on a cellular level so that we can close the book, stand up, and go about our daily lives even better than we were from when we first opened it. Oh, I hope I've convinced you. I think I probably convinced you. But of course, I would love to hear from you. You can find me in our Substack community. It's called Get Literate. You could sign up for my weekly literate love letter there. Every Friday, I send a bit of literate love to inspire your own, or reach out on social media at @AfinitoLit. Let me know what you think of this episode, and let me know if you need a book recommendation. You know, I am always up to deliver those to everyone too. Thanks for listening to another episode, everyone, and I will see you next week. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Restorative Reading and Writing for Wellness podcast. You'll find links to all of the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. And if you want more, you might like to join my Get Literate Substack community. There, you'll find additional inspiration for your reading and writing life, like bonus podcast episodes, book calendars, monthly book clubs, notebooking inspiration, live events, giveaways, and much more. It's only $5 a month, and you get instant access to all of the previous content, too. You can learn more at getliterate.co. But there's one more thing. If you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish and notebookish community too. Thanks for listening, everyone.